have no microphone, so.
No mic. Oh, no.
I like to talk loud.
You're gonna talk a lot louder than that.
This is not a court, but we're going to be nice and quiet. Listen, everybody. My name's Robert Essig. I'm president of Lake Country Republican Club. We meet over at Red Dome on the fourth Monday of every month, except maybe Christmas time and Thanksgiving. And we used to meet in this room. It's not that we got too large, it's just that we're Republicans and we wanted to have our meetings where we could patronize business, because we believe in self-sufficiency and free markets. Thanks everybody for coming. I expected we'd have a pretty nice turnout. We did last year. I just want to let you know on February 12th we will be hosting here again at 6 o'clock those contested contests for constable, county commissioner, and for the district judge. And so hope to see you at that also. So tonight we're covering district attorney and sheriff. So we have two district attorney candidates, and we have 4 candidates for sheriff. Before I get started, let me ask one of our members to give us a lead in prayer. Mike, would you lead us in prayer?
Our most gracious and loving Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come here and participate in the activities of our county, our nation. Father, we thank you for the rights that we have. We understand that our founders decided these things were God-given rights, and we appreciate that. Father, we pray that we would always put you first in our lives and put right things first in our lives also. We ask for health and strength. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Shari, you want to lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, a couple of housekeeping things. Was it Jim is in the back from Holly Lake? He's a voter registrar standing up there in the back. If anybody wants to get registered to vote, he's got the material to help you do that. It's pretty simple. In Texas, you fill out one card. And then also, we did invite the candidates to bring their campaign material. You should find it out there, signs and what have you. And then also, Lake Country Republican Club has been, we've been taking donations for t-shirts and hats with Trump material on it. And I have to say, being in sales for 37 years is probably the easiest thing to get donations for. And we have those in the back, and if you get it tonight, it's $10 for everything. So it'll at least help you make friends when you go into a restaurant you don't know anybody. Also, there was a couple of candidates that asked if they could say a few words. So we have a contest in the Republican primary for state rep. Lance Gooden is the incumbent, and his challenger is here, Mr. Hill. So I said he could have a few minutes to introduce himself, as long as the audience is here to listen. Go ahead.
You want me to go?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
And it's U.S. Congress.
I'm sorry, U.S. Congress.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Don Hill. I'm running in the Republican primary for U.S. Congress District 5. That district includes about half of Wood County, roughly. It's Quitman, Mineola, and Winsboro area, up to Yanis, and then kind of that southwestern section of the county. So some of y'all here tonight I'm running to be your rep. Half of y'all, maybe not. But I appreciate y'all listening anyway, and I'll not take too much of your time and bore you. So with everything that's going on in DC, who here is excited about having more career politicians in Washington? Anybody? Me either. I've not run for office before. I joined the Army out of high school when I was 17 years old. Took the oath. That's when I first took the oath to defend our Constitution. And I meant it then, and I mean it today. I've taken it several more times since then. I enlisted after I got out of the Army, I served in the 101st Airborne Division. I was an infantryman, and after serving in active duty, I got out to go to college. Was going to college in Dallas, but during that time, I also served in the the Texas National Guard. And so I took the oath again then and served 7 years in the National Guard. I became a paratrooper there. I served as a team leader, patrol leader. My highest rank was staff sergeant when I was done. That's a non-commissioned officer rank. And those were fantastic experiences for me that have driven me towards everything I've accomplished since then. And those are experiences that I will draw on as your representative in Washington, D.C. Since then, I've worked for 30 years in the private sector. 21 of those years, I've been an attorney. The last 13 years, I've owned my own law firm. It's a 3-man law firm. And so those are life experiences and professional work experiences I want to bring, and small business ownership experiences that I want to bring to Washington to guide policy and law up there to protect everybody here in District 5 as well. One thing I've heard over and over again from voters is that they are tired of career politicians, people who almost all of their professional work experience or life experience is in politics, not in business, not in education, not in banking and finance, not in any of these industries that we all work in, healthcare. They simply have had experience being a politician. I'm running because we have a rep in District 5 now whose primary experiences in life since he got out of college are being a politician, working in a politician's office or running for office. That's about it. And I don't think that's what our founders intended. I don't think that's what the voters want. And that's what I hope to bring to the representative for District 5 is someone with military experience, long-term work experience, small business ownership experience, and the common sense that comes with all of those things so that we can hopefully stop what's going on with that mess up there in DC now. You can find more information about me at our website, donhillforcongress.com. We also have a Facebook page, Elect Don Hill. You just go on Facebook and search for Elect Don Hill. You can like and follow our page there. Hopefully you share it with your friends and get the word out about us. And just go search it for yourself and find out more about my background and do your own research and compare and look at the background of the current incumbent. And it's up to y'all to decide who you want. Incumbents don't get to decide how long they keep the job and when they get to come back home. That's y'all's job, and that's my job as a voter, and that's why I'm running as a candidate, so that y'all actually have a choice this time around. Thank you for listening.
I'm going to say Congressman Lance Gooden has a representative here, Jennifer Alden, so I want to give her a chance to speak for her candidate.
Thank you. Yes, and sorry Congressman Gooden can't be here. He's obviously in Washington tonight, but I'm happy to be here. I've been in Wood County all day today, so that's kind of a good thing. I always love coming here. And obviously we are running for re-election, and we're just finishing our first year of our first term, and I think Congressman Gooden has done an exceptional job voting conservatively and supporting this president, which is exactly what he campaigned on and what is needed right now in Washington, unfortunately, is rallying around this president while we get through this impeachment, which hopefully, with a lot of prayers, will be over soon. But many of you probably remember when Lance was running for office the first time a couple of years ago. He was a state rep for Kaufman in Henderson County. But prior to that, he actually did work in insurance sales. So he has had a lot of experience in the private sector as well, and worked in the business industry. And so we're just thrilled to be, I am thrilled to be a part of his team. He works hard for you. Our team works hard for you. We are basically all over these 7 counties almost every day of the week. So we're here for you if you ever need us, and we would appreciate your support one more time. Thank you.
So I was going to make one more pitch for the shirts and just say that the money that we raise from that we give to winners of essays in our high schools. And this last year we gave away to the top 4. We gave away $1,000. So having the $1,200. We had a special donation. $1,200. But anyway, it's been very successful, and we're able to help out some of our high school students who are industrious enough to write about the Constitution. So, so we're starting off with District Attorney. I guess I can do this first. Angela Albers was unable to make it, and I have something to read that she provided us, and is running against Jodi for District Attorney. And I just want to emphasize that I'm really proud of our club in that we spend the time to do this every few years, because it's so important for people to get to know who the people are that are running. You know, it's not so much about how many signs you have as who is this person and what do they stand for. And hopefully tonight you'll get a little bit better idea who these candidates are in a very productive and civil way. I want to make one little announcement. I sent out a common email to our members, which are, you know, a relatively small group, and said if you can't make it to the meetings, you know, send me your question and make sure your question gets heard. And somehow somebody got a hold of my email from that small little group and got onto a Facebook website that's been, I would say, kind of controversial and a bit brash, I guess is a nice word to put it. So anyway, someone had suggested to me in an email that I put it on there, like I was wanting it to be there. I ended up, you know, it's one of those things where I'm a little bit in the public now, and all of a sudden your email is being used and thrown around. So we didn't want to put my email on that website. All right, so here's the message from District Attorney Angela Albers. Cataracts, put those away. Dear Lake Country Republican members and guests, I would like to thank you for holding this forum tonight. Forums throughout Wood County are important to give all voters a chance to hear from the candidates. This year, there are an increased number of candidate forums scheduled. As you know, none of the candidates are a part of the process of determining the dates and times of any of these forums. As a result, I have another event that I cannot reschedule and for which I have given my commitment to attend. There are other public forums and meet and greets scheduled that you are welcome to attend, and I'm available to speak to any citizen personally. I strongly encourage you to attend the other forums, to attend my meet and greet events, which are posted on my campaign Facebook, Keep Angela Albers DA, or to contact me personally regarding any questions you may have about my qualifications and experience. With nearly 20 years of criminal prosecution experience, I am committed to bringing my experience to serving all of our citizens. I am honored that Governor Greg Abbott has confidence in my record and experience and chose to entrust me as a Wood County's criminal district attorney with the public safety of our citizens. I look forward to visiting with each of you and ask for your vote on March 3rd to continue serving you as Wood County's criminal district attorney. Thank you for courtesy and your understanding. Angela Albers, Wood County Criminal District Attorney. So I wanted to get that out there. So I wanted to mention something in general. I have another job that I do in the Republican Party. It's called the State Republican Executive Committee. So we meet 4 times a year in Austin to really kind of continue what happens at the convention every 2 years. So we kind of keep the convention going. So we have a resolution committee and various committees to address different issues. And our purpose is to represent this Senate district. So our responsibility for myself and my partner Sue Evanwell, there's 1 man and 1 woman in each Senate district, and there's 31 state senators. So we have a 16 county area from Lamar and Bowie County down to Smith County and over to the east to Rusk and Panola County, all along that border of those states. So it's the exact same district as Senator Hughes. So I'm very involved in the state level, and obviously have a chance to express my feelings on a lot of different things and really advocate for a lot of issues that come up at our meetings. There's lots of difficult debate. So I just wanted to make a comment that in this case of the district attorney, where we had our district attorney resign and leave a vacancy, that meant that the governor, as his duty, needed to appoint someone to replace. And so that was Angela Albers. And that is exactly what Wood County needed. We needed somebody to be assigned to that position. What I'm bringing this up for is to take issue with a non-political job is being a district attorney. A non-political job is being a sheriff. A non-political job is being a district judge. You administer the law. You're in some phase of the law. And I am a little bit unhappy, a little bit disheartened that the governor saw fit to have to make a endorsement for anybody in this particular case for selecting a district attorney, when this is a Republican primary. And the only people that will be affected by the result of this primary are the people who live in Wood County. Not the governor, not Senator Hughes, not Congressman Gooden, and not State Rep Cole Hefner, who all endorse. I can tell you from being involved in the Republican Party at the state level, that is pretty much a dictate from the governor's staff telling people what to do, and they follow orders. I'm just very upset about it, and I just don't think that state level people need to be involved in what happens in Wood County when it's our election to be decided. And I'm not saying that because it was this person or that person. So I wanted to get that out there. So we're going to start doing questions for our district attorney candidate and give you kind of an open, big question to start. I've got a number of cards from people that contributed, but I've got a few questions here that we already had. And I just was going to ask Ms. Cox if you could just talk about and define your role as a district attorney.
Okay. So I've seen a lot of you at other forums, but you're going to hear my spiel again. So I am currently an assistant district attorney in the 8th Judicial District. And so the role of a district attorney's office is to see that justice is served. That's what the Texas Penal Code says. Like, it lays it out. That's what we do. I tell people that we're in the people business. That's who we deal with. We deal with our community. We deal with our county. We deal with defendants, but we also deal with their victims. We deal with family members of those defendants and those victims. We deal with people. And so while we are supposed to make sure that justice is served, we also have a fiduciary duty to our county as well. So we have to make sure that we are taking those cases whenever law enforcement presents them to us and pushing those cases through on a court docket to make sure that we resolve them as quickly as possible and also make sure that justice is served. So that's key, because if you don't do that, then you have people sitting in jail for months. And I have heard the saying, justice delayed is justice denied. That's not only to those defendants, it's also to the victims. You've really got to make sure that you're pushing those cases through. In order to do that, you have to work with law enforcement, all law enforcement. You've got to make sure that they are presenting a case to you that you expect. So working with them, letting them know what your expectations are, that is paramount. And then once you get that case, then it's your job to make sure that it's pushed through on the court's docket. Now, we have judges and they get to set dockets, but we get to tell the judge, we're ready to go. And you want to do that, because the longer you wait to prosecute a case and take it to trial, you lose your witnesses, people forget things. It's very important that you're pushing those cases through. So ultimately, the job of the district attorney is to make sure that justice is served, but it's also to make sure that you're doing that effectively and making sure that you're doing that efficiently. And so that's the job of the district attorney.
Okay, I messed up already. Wanted to give you 3 minutes to introduce yourself. And
Hi, I'm Jodi Cox.
and I was going to say, and guess what? I'm the one that asked the guy to come and record this.
So I'll back up just a little bit. My name is Jodi Cox. I live in Winsboro. I grew up in Winsboro, graduated from Winsboro High School, married a hometown boy. He's been trucking along with me during this campaign, putting signs out. He's just been my rock. We have 4 kids. We have Grayson, Jenna, Rhett, and Jocelyn. Grayson just got hired on as a firefighter in South Lake. We're really proud of him. Jenna's a senior. Rhett and Jocelyn, they're 10 and 7, and they keep us on our toes and they keep us busy. So right now I am a felony prosecutor. Before that, I was a prosecutor with child protection. I was a regional attorney. I traveled around the state and I prosecuted jury trials and bench trials on difficult CPS cases. That's what I did. Before that, I was in private practice. I handled everything that a district attorney's office handles. It was just on the flip side. I bring that perspective to the table. I have handled felonies. I have handled misdemeanors. I've handled mental health cases. I handled juvenile cases. I've handled municipal law tickets, traffic tickets. So that is my background. I think that a lot of you have heard what I want to bring to the table here. So I'm a felony prosecutor in the 8th Judicial District, but I live in Wood County. So I've had 10 years of trial experience, and in the last year I have been in the 8th Judicial District. And let me tell you, we've got a good reputation. We have criminals who are in Hopkins County that talk about, if you're going to get busted, it better not be in Hopkins County. And I think that that's well known. We've got a great system over there. In the last year, we just in Hopkins County, we disposed of over 1,000 cases. That means we either pled them out or we had a trial, but we got those cases pushed through and we got them disposed of. That's what I was talking about, was as far as the efficiency. Whenever you're pushing those cases through, then I guarantee you, whenever you're getting those big convictions, then criminals are not going to want to come to your county. And I think that's part of what the district attorney's office does. Now, the sheriff of a county is the chief law enforcement officer of the county. So I know this. The DA's office is supposed to be working with law enforcement to get those convictions. So that's what we do. I have a great working relationship with law enforcement in Hopkins County and in Franklin and Delta counties. We work together. We go to trainings together. They know exactly what I'm looking for whenever they bring a case to my office, and that means that it goes quickly. When we have a docket in my area, that means that we have an arraignment, and by the time that case gets to my desk, we kind of know where we're going with it. We know what we're going to do. And that's very important in these cases, because you've got victims who are waiting on answers. You've got defendants who are ready to plead things out. We don't want them sitting in our jails because you pay for that. You pay for them to sit in our jails. Currently, in Franklin and Hopkins County, we have a contract with Wood County where Wood County defendants go to our jails. And I tell people that the reason that they go to our jails in those counties is not because our law enforcement over there isn't doing their job. It's because we're pushing those cases through and our jails aren't full. So that's my spiel, and we'll go more into it. I'm sure Bob has some very interesting questions for me.
Well, we did get some from the being on that website. We got a lot more traction. People throwing questions to us. On the issue of casework in our county now, in Wood County, our district attorney's office has a total of 5 attorneys. One was recently added, and of course that adds to the budget. And our 2019 results were 488 cases were disposed of. I would like you to contrast that with where you're working, where you have, I believe, 3 attorneys,
Yes.
and 1,300 cases were processed in the 2019 year. That's about 3 times the amount. So why don't you address what you think the difference is?
Okay, so I can tell that Mr. Essig has been doing his homework. There is a website called the Office of Court Administration that you can go to and pull numbers. It's available to anyone. So I've actually pulled those numbers that he has. It's been talked about in other forums. So we do have 3 attorneys in 3 counties. Hopkins County is our biggest county, and then Franklin and Delta are smaller. But Hopkins County is actually smaller than Wood County. In Hopkins County, last year we pushed through 1,076 cases with 3 attorneys. In Franklin County, we pushed through 178 cases, and in Delta, we pushed through 62 cases. Delta's our small county. But I'm going to go one step further and talk about disposition percentages. So whenever you have cases come in and then cases disposed of, so taken care of, then you get a percentage. And that's also what we look at. So in Hopkins County, our disposition percentage was 118%. And let me give you the reason why. So there are times when we put people on probation and then they don't make it, so you end up revoking them, and so they come back, so it makes our numbers go up. But our percentage in Hopkins County was 118% as far as cases getting disposed of, but we actually brought in 1,076 cases. In Franklin County, our disposition rate was 87%, and in Delta County, our disposition was 91%. Now, I pulled the numbers, like I said, I looked at Wood County, and it was 488 cases this last year, and their disposition percentage was 77%. So that's something that we looked at. One of the things that we do in Hopkins County that enables us to get our cases pushed through quickly, it's called e-discovery, and I'm going to start talking a bunch of legalese to y'all real quick, but we have e-discovery, and that means that when law enforcement brings a case to us, we automatically upload it onto a portal where defense attorneys can go in, and as soon as they're appointed or they are hired onto a case, they have access to that. The reason that that is so important to us is it makes sure that they have that information immediately as soon as they hire on. So that means that those cases are getting moved quickly. They're able to look at the discovery, and whenever they come to the first court setting, they've already seen what we have. Because as a prosecutor, I'm sure that y'all have heard of the Brady Act or the Morton Act, but that means that it's full disclosure. They know what we've got. And so whenever we do that, if they know what we've got, that leads to plea deals, because we're telling them, hey, we're fixing to tee up on this guy, and they're going to come in and they're going to want to prove that out. So I think that that's very important. I do understand that Wood County does not have an electronic system. The defense attorneys in Wood County have come to me and they have told me they have to come in and get paper copies from the office, and it really does slow down the cases. And I think that that's something that we do in our counties that does make the process go a lot smoother. We actually have an open door policy with our defense attorneys. They don't have to schedule a time to come in. They can drop by. We're going to talk to them because we want to get these cases pushed through. I think that an open door policy with not only defense attorneys but also with law enforcement also helps move cases. At any given time, you're going to have, if you come in our office, you may see a member of law enforcement in our office, whether they're just there shooting the breeze or if they're talking about a case, but we have a great relationship with our law enforcement in our counties.
So your plan for an efficient case disposition, if you got the office in Wood County?
So one thing that we do in my counties that works really well is as soon as law enforcement brings us a case, we have it on a calendar, and we know that we are watching to make sure that that case doesn't get past 90 days. 90 days is our trigger day. Again, I'm talking legalese here, but after 90 days, if a person is still in jail and they have not been indicted on a felony case, they get something called a PR bond, a personal recognizance bond. And that means that they can bond out without having a bondsman, because you can't just keep people in jail forever because your system is not efficient. So what we do is we flag those cases and make sure that we're watching so that we have those cases indicted before that 90 days hits. And so because of that, our cases move quickly. We make sure that as soon as law enforcement gets us the case, that we are pushing that case through. We make sure it gets indicted, and as soon as it's indicted, it's on the docket, and we're pushing those cases through. So that's one of the reasons that we are so efficient in our offices, and that's the reason that we get good results as far as the efficiency. One other thing that I think helps, and it just is what it is whenever we try a case, we're getting good verdicts. We're getting life sentences. We got some 2 stacked 75-year sentences where an individual, he's eligible for parole when he's 113. People don't want to come up against our office because the results that we get, that's not what they want to do. So we are getting plea deals because of that. But also, they know that if we try a case, that we're going to try it quick. Like, okay, you want to do this, if you want to go to trial, we're going to go to trial. Let's, get it on the docket, let's get it done. We're not afraid to take cases, and whenever we do take cases, we get good results. So that's part of what our office does.
Okay, here's a question that was applicable to Ms. Albers because it was discussed and talked about at one of the previous forums, so it'll give you a little bit of background. That's where it came from. I've been to all of them since the first one started at the courthouse, just to see how everybody else was doing it so I could do it a little bit better. So it was, why would you do a ride-along with law enforcement and make yourself a witness in a criminal case? Wouldn't that disqualify your office from prosecution? So you want to address that kind of an issue? Right along with police.
Okay, I believe that was for her no refusal weekend that she went on a ride along, if I recall correctly. I haven't been on a ride along. I actually haven't done an initiative for a no refusal weekend. So as far as that goes, our county it's a 24-hour no refusal. We have a judge on call at any given time. So if someone refuses to do a breathalyzer test, then the law enforcement immediately gets a warrant for a blood draw. So my understanding is that Wood County didn't have that, but in our counties we do. So I think that was an initiative that she set up, but I haven't gone on a ride along because we don't have specific weekends. It's continually no refusal.
This is, again, kind of a general one for either party. When has your office gotten a maximum sentence in a jury trial?
I got a life sentence on a continuous sexual abuse of a child in November, the end of November. The 1st of November, I had a state jail drug charge, but that individual was a habitual offender. He had been to prison twice, so his punishment range was actually 2 to 20 years. It's like a 2nd-degree felony, and he got 20 years on that one. And I told y'all about the stacked 75-year sentences. That wasn't a maximum sentence, but it ended up pretty much being a maximum sentence. Those are the jury trials recently.
And then this was one that was really written for both, exactly the same. When was the last felony jury trial, and what was the outcome? We maybe already hit that. I'm not sure.
That was the continuous sexual abuse of a child in November. I actually have a jury trial coming up next week too, so y'all be praying for me.
That's the same, okay. This is about the process. I think this would be a good thing to discuss. The process of the law enforcement, say in most cases the sheriff's office brings a case, it comes to the district attorney, and then you decide if you're going to take the case or not, and then go to trial or not. So this was something that was said in the past. I believe it was by Ms. Albers, because it's addressed to her. If Judge Fletcher controls the felony docket and decides what cases are tried, why were 38 juries summoned and when there was only 5 jury trials. I believe that was the number of jury summons where they call out and notify people for a possible case. Last year were 38 times, and we ended up having 5 trials. So you want to talk about how the judge interplays with the docket?
Sure. So, in my experience, the judge does have control of his docket, but it is up to the prosecutor and the defense attorney to let the judge know when you're ready to go to trial. In our case, it's usually our office saying, "Judge, we're ready to go," because defense attorneys, it doesn't benefit them to hurry up and have a trial generally, unless their client's in jail. So as far as the district attorney's office, it's your job to push those cases through and to let the judge know that you're ready. And that's how it works in my counties.
Okay, and bond forfeitures. Someone's asking, could you explain the concept of bond forfeiture and how effectively they're being processed in Wood County?
So a bond forfeiture, whenever someone bonds out of jail, they get a bondsman, and the bondsman guarantees that that person's going to show back up to court, because everyone is entitled to a bond generally. There are very, very few exceptions on that. So as far as a bond, the bondsman will come in and put their name on the bond, and then that person has to show up. And if they don't show up, who's on the hook? The bondsman. So as far as Wood County goes, I'm not sure exactly what their process is. I can tell you that in our counties we have bond forfeiture dockets. We hold the bondsman accountable because that's money that goes to our county. And if they're going to put their name on someone and they're going to guarantee that they're going to be at court, then it's their job to make sure that they show up. And if they don't show up, then the bondsman is on the hook for that money. And the reason that we push that, and have dockets for that, is they're not going to bring that to the court's attention. And so we want our defendants showing up to court because we want our cases pushed through. And whenever they don't show up, then we can't get the cases heard. I'm going to backtrack for just a second and go back to, I was telling y'all that we try to get cases indicted within 90 days. We try to make sure that those cases are indicted quickly, because when someone is indicted, then that means if they don't show up, then we also have another hammer that we have to hang over them, which it's called failure to appear. That's a whole other charge if they don't show up once they're indicted, and that's a 3rd-degree felony. So as far as the bond forfeitures, we have a bond forfeiture docket, and we make sure that the bondsmen are held accountable. If they're going to vouch for a person, then they better make sure they show up to court. If not, they're going to pay us money, the county, you. But as far as the defendant, if they don't show up, that's why we want to get them indicted, because then we have a 3rd-degree felony hanging over them, and that makes them a little more anxious and more willing to show up to court.
Okay. Here's one. This was also recently discussed at one of the other forums, where someone asked about conviction rate, and I guess there was an inability to really explain what the conviction percentage was. Could you address that?
Okay, so the way that a DA's office works is there are many, many times we are getting more than one case on the same defendant. So there are times when we're going to have 3 or 4 cases on one defendant come in. It can sometimes they have meth on them, and then they have marijuana. There can be misdemeanors and felonies all at the same time. So we have multiple cases coming in on one defendant. So if we're talking about a conviction rate, we're going to get at least one of those cases teed up on that individual, that defendant. Now, there are going to be times that we do something called a 1245 dismissal, and I've talked about this a little bit. But that is where someone admits guilt in those other cases, but they go to jail, or their conviction is only on, generally is the biggest case, is what we do. So as far as our conviction rate, if we have a case come across our desk then someone is very likely going to get convicted of a crime or get put on deferred adjudication. Whenever I went back, I was trying to run those numbers, and it gets a little wonky when we're looking at them, but I would, whenever I talked with my colleagues, our conviction rate is over 90%, closer to 100%, but there are some cases that we don't take into account because we have dismissed them because someone pled to a higher charge, and that's just something that prosecutors do. So I feel like I'm talking, like I said, it's called legalese, so if y'all have any questions about this afterwards, then I will talk to y'all about it. I know it gets in depth, and I can talk about this all day long because it's what I do, but sometimes it gets a little difficult to understand all of the terms that I'm throwing out at you.
This addresses the term of office of our existing DA. It said during your 11 months in office, you have had 100 cases that have been dismissed or no-billed. In one of those cases, a burglar wrote his name on a victim's wall and admitted so during his interrogation. How are victims supposed to feel? So could you at least explain to us about cases being dismissed or no-billed? What does that mean?
Okay, so law enforcement brings us a case. Whenever they bring us a case, that's what I was talking about, that indictment. We want to make sure that those cases are indicted within 90 days. We try to have a grand jury come in and sit. They're picked. We have a January and a July grand jury. That's what we call them. But we try to have them come in once a month so that we can get those cases indicted. I don't know if any of you have ever heard this saying, but that a prosecutor can indict a ham sandwich. We do have control over our grand juries, and so it's very rare in our counties that we do get a no bill. Most of our cases are going to get indicted. We're not going to take a case generally to a grand jury unless we're planning on getting it indicted. There are a few that we have taken to grand jury and they're not strong cases, but what I said before, our job is to make sure justice is served. So there are some cases that we don't feel really strongly about, and we allow the grand jury, that's a jury of your peers that come in and sit down, we allow them to come in and no bill them, but it is very rare that we get a no bill. That's just the way that our system works.
This is, I want to hit this again and get some idea from you. This goes back to if Judge Fletcher decides which cases get tried, why were 38 juries summoned but only 5 trials? Can you explain the scenario of why it seems like there were so many juries summoned and so many?
I can't speak to Wood County. I can speak to my counties. In my counties, what I was talking about is when we are talking with the defense attorneys from the get-go and they have all of the discovery, then that means that we are getting resolutions a lot quicker. So you're not going to get to the very end of a case and have it set on a jury docket and then settle. We're settling at the beginning of the case, and that's part of the efficiency of getting cases pushed through. I think that has a lot to do with you've got to be talking with defense attorneys. You've got to let them know that you're willing to work with them, open door policy. That's working with law enforcement, making sure that you know your cases and know what an appropriate plea offer is. And so I think that's something that prevents you having to summon a jury at the end of a case and then settling it the day before you have a jury trial.
Okay. I'm going through a couple of duplicates here. I'm my own assistant tonight. Some of these are particular cases, and so that wouldn't apply here by Ms. Cox, who wasn't working in this county. Now, a lot of people ask this. I think this will be helpful. As a DA candidate, in your opinion, is it normal for a district attorney to downgrade a felony in order to expedite it through the court system, what would you do to fix it, considering that's a problem?
Okay, actually that is more common than you would think. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I can tell you a case that we had in Franklin County that was interesting. It was an individual who was driving through and he had a salve that had marijuana in it, so it's considered a controlled substance. Well, they look at the total weight of that. So it was a plastic container full of salve. It was a first-degree felony. So that's what we ended up with because of that total weight. And so we have to make sure, like I said, that justice is served. This was someone who was traveling through Texas. He showed his receipt of where he had purchased it legally. That individual, we did downgrade that to a state jail felony. The reason being that he kind of got me fired up because not only did he have the salve, but he was also smoking a joint as he was driving through. So he didn't get away with that scot-free. He did get a felony conviction. But I think that there are times when you have to look at a case and you have to decide what is right for that case. And I think that that is a time that you would.
Okay, here's a good one. I kind of like this one. Ms. Cox, I see your campaign signs in many places next to Jeff Fletcher and Tom Caslow signs. Did they approach you and ask you to run for DA?
So, I put my name in the hat for the appointment by the governor whenever Mr. Wheeler resigned. Whenever I decided that I was going to do that, I thought that I was qualified at the time. Something else came up. I got a job offer in the 8th Judicial District. Let me tell you, that was the best decision I could have made because I got to see how a district attorney's office is supposed to work. That I've got colleagues who know what they're doing. They do it with integrity, and I'm very, very proud to say that I work there. I am able to take my 10 years of experience and go there and see how a district attorney's office works. And now I want to bring it back to Wood County. Did they approach me? No. No one gets to tell me what to do. That's something that has actually, I have been asked this. Ask my husband. He will tell you. I do work. I have worked with Jeff Fletcher. I have worked with Tom Caslow. I have worked in this county, so I know them, and they have been nice to me. But I have also sat down with Kelly Cole, and I have also sat down with Mr. Schaffner, and I have also sat down with Callie Lawrence, and I have talked with them too. I have sat down with Brad McCampbell, and we've talked as well. I will work with anyone. I'm not aligned with anyone in a campaign. I think that all of us are trying to run our own race. I believe that it's part of, we've talked about politics, right? Politics are politics. If someone says I'm aligned there, that's fine. But I'm telling you that I think part of the reason I agree with Mr. Essig that it should not be a partisan race as far as a DA's office or a judge's office, because we are supposed to be doing this to make sure that justice is served. We shouldn't be sitting here saying, well, I'm going to do this so that we're a buddy over here and I'll scratch my back if you scratch mine. Because whenever I get in that office, it's not going to be that way either. I will work with all law enforcement, whether they like one another or not, and I will work with my judge because that is my job. My job is to make sure that justice is served.
All right, here's an interesting thing for us to learn something about. Do you have a victim services coordinator? You might talk about that.
Okay.
And what are their duties?
I'm kind of glad that this is recorded because I hope she sees this. Yes, we do have a victims assistance coordinator in my office, and she is fabulous. I could not do my job without her being such a go-getter. We are a great team, and I appreciate everything that she does. A victims assistance coordinator, that is exactly what it sounds like. She works with our victims. She's our liaison. She sets up meetings for the attorneys to meet with those victims. She makes sure, and this is actually statutorily required. She makes sure that our victims have notice of every court date so that they know exactly what's going on. She lets them know what happens with the cases, and that's part of that accountability that our office has. Is our victims, we have to answer to them at the end of that case. And so she does that. She's our liaison. She actually, I came straight here from Hopkins County. I was running, I had an appointment at 4 with a victim, a rape victim, and she sat in there with me. But she's been working with this victim, and this victim is terrified of the defendant in this case. And she has actually worked with her because the defendant was calling this victim from jail, using other people's numbers and calling her. Well, my victim's assistance coordinator worked with her and got all of those numbers. So now we're going to file on him because he's violating his bond conditions. And so having a victim's assistance coordinator is huge, and I could not do my job without her. And it's statutorily mandated. So.
Here's one more thing on productivity. A lot of people seem to talk about this. If the DA, Mr. Wheeler, tried 22 felony cases, jury trials in 2017 with 3 prosecutors, why did you only have 5 trials in 2019? That's talking to our county here. So could you talk about the efficiency of your office and what the difference is between what might be happening here and happening where you work?
I think I've briefly touched on this before. We have 3 attorneys that work in 3 counties. I don't know exactly how many cases Mr. Wheeler tried. I did pull the numbers from the year that he was here, and it showed that when he was still the DA, the office disposed of 538 cases, and then the next year, after he had resigned, it had gone down to 488 cases. That's one of the reasons that like I said, I live in Wood County, and I was watching how things were progressing after he resigned. And my understanding after talking to a commissioner was that the DA's office had come and asked for 2 more attorney positions. And the commissioners actually gave the DA's office 1. They didn't give them the second one. I pulled the budget from Wood County, and in 2017-2018, the budget of the district attorney's office was $752,856 and some change. Well, this year, the 2019-2020, it's $914,982. And that's concerning to me because another attorney position was added, yet we aren't getting cases pushed through in our county, and that doesn't make sense to me. We've got 3 attorneys, and we get those cases moved through. So as far as why that's not happening, I can't answer as to Wood County, but I can tell you that the reason that that is happening in our counties is because of everything that I've talked about, plus a lot of hard work and being on the ground, making sure that those cases are getting pushed through. Like, we work hard every day because we are accountable to the people that we work for, the citizens of our county. And I think that that's something that's imperative, that it's not, the DA's office is not a figurehead. I want to be a working DA. I want to be in the courtroom. That's one of my favorite places to be. My husband and I were looking at that sign that says faith, family, friends, and I want to add felonies to that. You know? So that's where I want to be, is in the courtroom. So that's something that I think is imperative, is you've got to be wanting to be there. You got to want to try cases. You got to want to work hard, and that gets cases pushed through. I appreciate y'all letting me talk. Like I have a jury trial coming up. I am working every day, and I'm campaigning at the same time to say that this is, I'm not going to say stressful, but intense is a good word, to say the least. And I am glad. I just want to let y'all know what I'm wanting to do. My vision for Wood County, the DA's office in Wood County. I think that different people have different visions of what a DA should do and what a DA's office should look like. And I just want to let y'all know what my vision is. My vision is that you have a working DA, you have attorneys that are getting the job done, an open door policy with defense attorneys, and law enforcement working with them, making sure that they know what your expectations are, making sure that you're communicating with them. I think that that's imperative. But at the end of the day, again, it is to make sure that justice is done. Hold me accountable. That's what I keep on saying. I'm accountable to the citizens of this county. So if you want to come in and say, okay, this is not getting done, then I'm accountable to you. You are voting. You are the people that get to see who is in the DA's office. And I think that that's very important, because if you trust me with your vote, then I can answer to you about the job that I'm doing. Now, autonomy is very important. We try hard cases. Not everyone's going to be happy. Everybody's got a mama, right? Defendants have a mama. They are not going to be happy with some of the decisions and some of the trials that I decide to take to court. There are going to be times that victims' families, they aren't thrilled with the outcome of a case, but maybe that case wasn't strong enough to take it to trial and we end up pleading it out. There are tough choices that a district attorney's office has to make every day. But I have no problem answering to you regarding that. But what I can tell you is that I'm willing to come in and I'm willing to work hard. I'm willing to make sure that the cases are pushed through effectively and efficiently so that your tax dollar is not being wasted. And I'm just asking you to trust me in that position, because I will answer to you. I have no problem with that. And I appreciate y'all listening to me. Thank you.